So today, Donald Trump announced a trade deal, I should say deal, with the UK. And according to Trump, this is the greatest deal of all time, right?
So what's the deal about?
Well, actually, the main headlines were on Wall Street Journal and the Bloomberg is that this is a framework of things they're going to be talking about, right? So they're kind of like made a deal to negotiate stuff. But there were a couple a little bit more concrete things regarding cars, ethanol, and food.
Food and there's steel and aluminum.
Oh yeah, and steel and aluminum as well. So first, let's read a comment from someone from Britain. It's actually funny in our community. This is from Steve. Steve says, as a Brit, there is no way I will ever purchase anything from the US ever. Again, you've blown it. Never. I will never visit your country again. There are nicer countries to visit there where I will be appreciated.
Yeah, so no the tour business in America, I guess.
Yeah, and this is something that people don't talk about enough. It's not included in often Trump's numbers, right?
Yeah.
So he'll be talking about selling goods and these kind of things, but Trump will often exclude services, exclude financial transactions. It's like Visa, MasterCard make a lot of money, or bringing a lot of tourist dollars. Or another one would be foreign students.
Sure, and think about it. Think about the Disneyland.
Yeah.
How expensive it is.
Oh, absolutely.
They spend a lot of money on the hotel, food, the transportation.
Oh, absolutely. So don't sleep on the importance of tourism. And for those of you who live in a city that has a lot of tourists, like literally, if the bookings are down, etc. How that is a very important impact on your economy.
Yeah.
What else is we talking about here? So this is David, another member of our community, says, if America wants to sell stuff, start producing things people want to buy. American food is unhealthy muck. American cars are too big, too polluting, and too badly designed. Wow. American planes are dangerous. It's what happens when a country is run by corporations that get rid of regulations. What do you think about that when it comes to business?
Yeah, even if you have a choice when you go to the grocery, if there's US, you don't have to buy it. But what if the big company like McDonald,
right?
They think about just cost,
right?
And what if they start using like old American meat and cheap old American meat?
Now, I can't comment on how McDonald's is run in the UK or how various fast food brands are run, right? Because I'm not Brit, but I want to hear from you guys. I'll just say this. So here in Korea, there was a scan. I don't know if scan is the right word, but I remember it was on the news where some of the restaurants were dishonest about where the food was coming from, and that was not popular.
No. You find too. If you put on the wrong information of food.
Yeah. So here in Korea, on menus, they actually tell you to say where various meat comes from or vegetables, etc.
Yeah, everything basically.
People really don't like it if stuff comes from China. Seriously, there was
kimchi.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna say, especially kimchi. It was a huge headline for us of like, what do you mean you're selling kimchi from China? So I think generally speaking, you can sell stuff from other countries, but don't be dishonest about where the stuff comes from, right? Because people do care about these things. Another good example about truth, and we call it truth in labeling. When we go to the store, and I don't understand it exactly, the chicken, the eggs. The same in USA where it says like there's cage free, there's like grass fed, and like free roaming or free range. Like we actually have multiple ways.
Four grade, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't pretend to understand the whole chicken situation. No, seriously, I don't. And then Yeji, you tell me something about like when I buy the eggs, I have to look for a number on the eggs.
In Korea, there's on the egg there's numbers.
Yeah, an actual stamp on the egg.
Very end, like. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's the grade of the how the kitchen farm
is one the grade. Highest then, and like
1 is
4 is the lowest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And this is actually a true story. More expensive eggs taste better in Korea, right?
I don't know. Maybe you feel like it, or just
It could be an emotional thing. Well, okay. Well, at least they make me feel better. Y'all, you guys read that how you want. But I mentioned that thing because. Let's say you at the grocery store says, okay, I'm not going to buy American stuff, but I think McDonald's probably will take the American.
Not just McDonald's, even if just you're a local local restaurant, like
sure,
like meatball, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Whatever meat, the restaurant they go for their goal is, sometimes just lower the cost.
Yeah. And so people were saying in our comments, I was reading through the community, that this is a loser for Starmer. Like, why are you siding with Trump? Why are you taking American, meat or chicken? And many places in Europe will ban this stuff. So it's not just that it's old; it's how you feed the animals.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of stuff? So are you recycling past animals with current animals?
You injection.
Yeah.
To grow fast.
Are you putting stuff in the animals?
Yeah.
So what do you feed them? Yeah. So some of these, some countries, not just Europe, but just many countries, are like, that's just not allowed, right? So every country is going to be different on that. My opinion, I've warned you guys about this several times. I try to avoid American stuff when possible. But however, if you're in the USA, organic tends to be better.
Yep.
Right. It's just the costs are so high. And then when you're removing regulations, which Trump and the Musk try to do, it's not great for the American consumer. And a lot of this tariff talk, Trump likes to talk about winning and losing, but the real discussion should be more on the consumers paying higher taxes, right? So that's not great.
No one's winning, just only Trump, I guess.
Yeah, so because people keep asking, where does the tariff money go?
Everyone's losing except Trump.
Because the tariff money goes into the sovereign wealth fund, that'll then be funneled into your AI stuff and your robots or whatever. Now, Lutnick, one of Trump's people, actually was on Bloomberg.
See, does that work for you? And if you want to modify it. But then what'll happen is we'll do 1 and then we'll do 10, and then we'll do 1 and then we'll do 15, right? And we want to do big. But obviously, when you talk about Japan, I mean, come on, you've got to spend an enormous amount of time with Japan, Korea. These are not going to be fast deals. Now, India's been leaning in really hard. Right? I love doing a deal with India. That's certainly a possibility, but this is a lot of work. These are a lot of lines. Remember, this was not sort of just a gloss over handshake trade deal. This was 2,600 lines of tariffs changing, modifying, and coming down. And, when you talk about India, it's probably 7,000 lines. It just takes time and it just takes work. So give us a chance. Don't be pushing and rushing. But let me tell you, each one of these trade deals is going to feel the same.
With the Japan and Korea, there will be no fast deal.
Right. So the deal with UK was fast, but then literally he's saying Japan and Korea is not going to be fast.
Because UK, there's nothing to agree with, I guess.
Well, you don't want
not much.
I mean, you don't want to say mean things about UK because UK is our friends, but just
UK is more, they trade with, the China and Europe, not much of
in Europe,
USA.
And the EU is way more important to UK than say the USA. So that's the big deal that UK needs to figure out after Brexit. Like, how can you repair things with the Europe? Now, regarding, because you mentioned China, the headlines today, actually, I'll read it. It says, China's exports surge as shipments to Southeast Asia countries offset plunge in U.S. trade. So basically, the USA, and this would be from the Trump side, they keep trying to say that China is feeling massive amounts of pain, which is true. So I don't want to say that's not true. When Trump puts on trade barriers, it hurts everybody. American consumers get hurt, American jobs get hurt.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned, we're seeing as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
That means we lose less money. When I see that means we lose less money.
Trump even said today that, because the question was, what about the people who work at the ports, like the dock workers or the ships and stuff like that? Do you care about their jobs? And he's like, he actually doesn't care. No, literally, that was the question. And then he's like, well, but that means we're not losing money to China. And it's like, it doesn't really make sense.
You're still winning. Everyone gets rich.
Yeah, right? So he doesn't care. And then obviously they shut down factories in China. So it certainly has an impact. But what China's been doing then is trying to ship more stuff to Southeast Asia and also to Europe. So don't think that USA is the only place that China can trade with, right? And then the other thing that I think is important with the Lutnick situation, he was saying that it's not going to be fast with Japan or Korea, and he was very respectful, talked about Japan and Korea. That was very interesting. Because I've seen Lutnick a lot, and the demeanor changed when he mentioned Japan and Korea. It wasn't like there was no joke. It was like, I guess you don't trash talk Japan or Korea. I guess.
And then he mentioned about India.
Yeah,
right?
what's going on with India?
So India, there is the how can I say, paper.
Like a document or a
yeah.
what's the right word to say?
I see.
A trade deal book, I guess you could call it. Like
so
the
they
huge.
have to look up 7,000 lines,
Right.
right? So it's not just okay. Trump says, it's okay. Just put 100 everything. It's not works like that. He literally said they have to change.
Yeah, it was 7,000 lines. Yeah.
7,000 lines.
Yeah, according to Lutnick, the way he talked in the Bloomberg interview was like 2,600 would be like a handshake fast deal, but 7,000 lines is kind of more like what we're looking at. But like even 2,600 lines, I mean, there's so much you got to go over precise things, and you also have to remember this. And I mentioned the Starmer stuff before, or for example here in Korea, if the news breaks out that say, hey, your country's taking U.S. beef that's got a bunch of bad stuff in it, right? What do voters think about that thing?
So recently in Korea, we impeached our president, right?
Right.
So we change our president when something's going wrong.
Sure.
So I think if we, how can I say, our new president seems like having a losing deal. We don't like it.
Right.
We don't like it.
Yeah, and the other one would be, what's interesting in Korea, part of the politics is one party, so it'd be the Yoon party, the one that got impeached. Part of their strategy or platform was to get closer to the USA. But as I told you guys before on the channel, we just visited Yeji's family for a holiday, and Yeji's uncle and cousin were talking about Trump tariffs in a negative way. Because no one likes paying taxes. You don't have to pay more taxes, right? In the trade war. And so like if regular people, and your family tends to be more Yoon kind of family, like if regular people are talking about tariffs, like just imagine, like I said, the headlines are, oh, we're taking, old American beef or American beef with a bunch of chemicals in it. Voters don't like that stuff, and they understand it. And that's why we had to bring up the McDonald situation, which is a really good one, is that even if you try to not buy it at the grocery, McDonald's or various companies, or even, for example, let's say, let's say you're taking milk or whatever dairy from US, and it ends up being in your ice cream. Or your butter, yogurt. Yeah.
And your bread, bread needs milk too.
Yeah. So then, because from all your store perspectives, like, well, we're going to cut costs. We got this new, way to do it. And then also part of the true, we call it truth in labeling again. You want regulations to make sure that companies and things aren't lying about where stuff comes from. Because someone mentioned in the comments to where for some countries, they want to make sure they know exactly, like literally exactly where something comes from, because in the U.S. situation, if you say, for example, bring in meat from Mexico or from Canada, and then mix it with the U.S. meat, and then just kind of like, I'm not sure where.
I know. So there's that we can bring the cow here, we cut it here. That is Korean meat. It's something.
Okay.
There is something you can like not lie, but it's kind of trick that you can.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a similar with the car situation to where like or phones, for example, where let's say all the parts are made in China or Vietnam, but then you just like put in one screw in USA and then you call it made in USA.
Final screw, right?
The final screw, right? And so part of how you were thinking about this, and I was telling Yeji about this, is like food laundering, like money laundering, food laundering, to like clean the origin of the food or make it so you don't know where it comes from. It's real. Someone also mentioned in the comments, and I can't comment on specific countries, but I just want to mention it. Someone was saying in various places in Europe that something like a Hershey's chocolate bar may not have enough chocolate to actually call it chocolate in said country. So if you guys are in a country of that situation, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. But it makes perfect sense because
because Hershey's is basically like chocolate taste of a chocolate bar, right?
You're so mean to Hershey's. No, but it is true. When you taste different brands of chocolate, it's vastly different.
Because cacao, the chocolate seed itself is they're increased the price.
Oh, right. So then, yeah.
So you can only taste of the chocolate.
Yeah. So the way they do that in our, because actually when we say Yeji used to read the ingredients of packages. And you were really against. She had to look this up because it's like
corn syrup.
Yeah, syrup. I think they call it stuff gumbo
and GMO stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like words that you want to look for that kind of means nonsense, or like anytime it says artificial flavoring, you never know exactly what that. No, seriously, you don't actually know what that stuff is. So one of the things that I like in the USA, and this is something that Americans are good at. Well, you have to look at the label though. Is that when you get peanut butter in the USA, get the ones that literally say 100% peanuts.
And nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a brand I used to get, and I'm not like, you know, pitching the brand because there's more than one brand, but it was funny where it just said 100% peanuts and nothing else. I'm like, I'm buying that one, you know.
Yeah, well, even if it's hassle, because there is oil and peanut butter, we gotta mix it for a long time, but it's healthy.
That's the better peanut butter, yeah. And true story. So I don't know where it comes from. I got to read the label, but there's a grocery store that I recently found that has good peanut butter. 'Cause it's actually hard to find in Korea because peanut butter is not that popular here. So you can find the cheaper ones like the was it Jiffy or the
There's
Skippy?
peanut butter flavor one.
So mean to peanut butter, but you guys know the ones. It's like the Skippy or the Jif,
Yeah.
so it's the kind of like cheaper ones. But the real peanut butter, yes, it has that oil at the top, and so that's the kind of stuff, you know. For me, when you guys, you know, talk about food, you'll notice real differences between essentially the real sort of natural kind of food. Maybe it's inconvenient. Maybe it doesn't taste as sweet because a lot of the artificial stuff is just full of sugar, you know, basically. And that's one thing that's actually quite interesting. True story. So we know we don't go to McDonald's that often here. McDonald's is better here in Korea than it is in USA, and I think it has to do with where they're getting the meat.
Yeah.
And yeah, because it's definitely, and the menu's different here also.
Yeah.
So I'll be really curious, say in the UK, when you go to a place like McDonald's or, you know, various, you know, burger places or whatever, do they put country of origin of the meat? So we actually just looked up the McDonald's app here.
I have a McDonald app.
Yeah, and they tell you where the meat comes from, and it's
Yeah,
actually quite
there's-
interesting. So
this
this is
is-
McDonald's Big Mac.
Yeah, Big Mac. Actually, burger, the patty is from Australia.
Patty's from Australia.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the chicken is Korean.
Chicken is Korean.
Yeah, chicken is Korean. The 불고기, the pork is Korean.
Pork is Korean.
Yeah. And the bacon is from Ireland, Spain, Canada, etc., etc. They said.
Literally it says et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, tune.
So bacon.
Tune is from,
So bacon comes from all over.
yeah.
This is McDonald's, so it shows
Also,
you.
yeah,
Shows you what's that?
the shrimp patty
Uh-huh.
from Thailand.
Shrimp from Thailand from McDonald's.
Yeah, so yesterday we talked about
pretty
like
interesting.
India, the prawn,
Yeah,
frozen prawn.
Yeah. So that might actually show up in your restaurants in the UK.
Yeah, so I think the
Interesting.
prawn
Mhm.
and shrimp just from around their ocean. A lot of it.
Oh, it could be. It
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be.
yeah.
It could be.
Southeast Asia.
Interesting. So yeah, our shrimp in McDonald's comes from Thailand.
Ooh, but there's for the egg McMuffin,
Uh-huh.
Canadian bacon is American.
Canadian.
Muffins bacon is from America.
Okay.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this is the kind of regulations
Mm.
that you want to have in place to protect consumers. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts. What do you think about the trade deal? What do you think about taking American products? And what do you think about some of the comments? So do appreciate your time, and we'll catch you all the next time. So bye.